Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. We're about to get underway, but took us a minute to get there. It took a minute, I'll put it that way. But we're here, and we want to be here, so we're doing good. Today we have a little bit of an interesting race around Austria, and we're gonna have some fun here today, as this is the second race of the calendar. A little bit of an interesting spread, the second of 12 races. First race, Brazil, yesterday. It was a good race. Wasn't there for it, unfortunately, but I heard that it was a good first race and a good first round for a majority of people. This week we have Austria, as you can see. We have Austria this week. Hopefully, a lot of these drivers do relatively well. As for the results last week, in the drivers, we had a little bit of an interesting story here. I would say that having a reserve, get your number one overall. It's a little interesting. I definitely wouldn't say that it's the best thing in the world, but I mean, there it is. Not much more to say about that. And then and that is the drivers themselves, not just the team standings. So we are. It's a little interesting. Of course, only one race has passed, so there's not really too much to talk about, but looks like they're shaping up, at least in the early days, to be a midfield fight. So it is a tad interesting. Mainly just hoping for the race to do relatively well. And yeah. Anyway, here we are. Lord. Alright. Well, as we get ready to go racing, it will be a little interesting. Alright. Well, as we get racing here, we see the first few drivers come out onto the track. Motherfucker. Okay. Give me 1 second. Fuck. Okay. We're gonna do this. Alright. Apologies. Trying to get this to work for the first time, but as we come out to qualifying, it's a short qualifying and a 50% race. As you can see, in the intermediate conditions at the moment, still a little bit of time to go here, but we'll see exactly where the first times are, and they are coming in fast. The very first times coming in with some pretty good times. The McLaren going through into P1 with a 14.60. The Red Bull, who set the very first time of the session, 1.2 seconds behind. And it looks like Zugzama will come into P2 a little bit behind. Looks like there was some slowing there in the second sector, but we are fine as is currently. I want to try something. There we go. This is what I wanted. And a lot of the times they're starting to pour in. You're starting to see your very first times. I wouldn't be surprised if majority of these drivers are out there with more than one race or quali laps worth of fuel. They want to go out there and do as many laps as possible. It is a wet qualifying, so the more you can rubber it in, the more you can get used to the conditions, as I'm sure many of these drivers practiced in the dry conditions, the better it'll be for them. They really are probably hoping to be a little bit better. I'll be honest with you. I'm not too sure about many of these drivers. 7 seconds behind is in last place. Carroll, who did qualify P1 on the second set lap, he's doing pretty good. Still in pole. It seems to be a little bit of a fight for it right now. Top three separated by 0.3, but it is Austria. 0.3 can be the difference between being quite a bit faster and quite a bit slower of majority of these drivers. And as we come through, a lot of these drivers aren't really improving. We're seeing in and around the 15s for a good majority of them. Not really totally improving. I mean, you can see their P6 to P8 is separated by just a few hundredths of a second, and even ahead and behind it's not too big of a difference, as the Williams of Hazard shoots up to P6 with a 14.9, and ooh, wow, the McLaren of Sukarek almost spinning out there. Again, just testing the conditions. It looks like a lighter sort of rain, as we can see on the track, but maybe time for dries? Of course, I can't tell as I'm not out on the track, but who knows, it might actually be worth it for the dry compound tires at this point. And it looks like at least our pole sitter currently has decided that, yeah, it's time. It looks like it's stopped raining out on the track, and it looks like it'll be time to bolt on the sauce and see who can get the best of the drying conditions. And it looks like Sukarek is starting to spin out. It looks like his lap might just be done. And up and down the field, there's not a huge... Oh. And it looks like we have a lobby desync. Oh, fuck. 1 second, gentlemen. Alright. Interesting. Lord. Alright, I just hope I don't crash again. Anyway, yeah. So we're back. As I said, going to the dry conditions, and it is very much dry. First actual lap to be set is 3.5 seconds faster than the car, or sorry, 2.5 seconds faster than the car behind him. So there definitely is a good chance here that pole could be shaken up. The whole field could be moving up and down at any one point. Basically, it's who at the end of the session I think will be able to get the driest lap. I'm not too sure if it'll dry out completely by the time Ryan Berger goes to P1. 3 seconds ahead of P2 at the moment, but I am sure that will not last too long. Let's do this. There we go. And of course, as we come through, a lot of these drivers are going faster. Carroll back up into P1 after holding intermediate pole for the longest time. He's at a 5.9, 6/10 ahead of the driver behind him. I imagine that pole times today will be in the mid to low 5s, maybe even into the 4s. Just prior to the session, I set a 4.6. That's more than likely a cut there, and he's just going to head into the pits. Sukarek, who again is the pole sitter's teammate, did a decent job on his lap, but we'll have to see how he does. He's purple to the first, green to the second, and we'll see if he can go to provisional pole as Lucas, and then Zuxama go ahead of him. Zukarek goes P2 with a 1:05.3, I think. Yes, a 0.3. As he does a fantastic job getting ahead of his teammate, who he didn't beat in the inters condition, but Zuxama up into P1, already at a 5.1, into that low 5 to mid 5, and had Kook in the Red Bull, he goes even higher with a 5.0. Yellow flag in sector 2. That might be somebody running out of fuel. It is not. I think it is time for drivers to just head back into the pits and try to do the best they possibly can by getting through. Ernala green to his first sector, all the way down in P14. He will be looking to improve on his lap. He is almost 2 seconds ahead of our, 2/10 ahead of our current pole sitter. Going to be into the 4s if he can get this to work. Again, still on a drying track, not the greatest last turn, but he makes it work. And at the moment, he's getting it to stick up to the line. He does not go, or no, he did. Yeah, he does not go P1. He goes to P5 with a 1:05.4. It's way better than P14 though, and I think he will be happy with that. He'll still have enough time to get back into the pits and go for another round. As Zenny in the Alpine goes to P3. Trosso in the Mercedes, he still hasn't improved on his lap, as many people are still just now going out. Carroll, who was our pole sitter and did have one of the earlier soft times to be banged in, he's sitting in P10 after sitting on pole by over 2 to 3/10 on the intermediates. We'll have to see if he can reclaim what was once his, as a majority of the drivers are starting to come out of the pens. Haza with green to the first, purple to the second. Again, on a completely dry track, he goes P12, can barely improve, and is only at a 1:06.4, I believe. Not the greatest times from him. And again, drivers just warming up their tires, getting ready for maybe their final lap, maybe if they have fuel for 2 push laps. But that ERS gain is just, it's not high enough around here. That's the one thing with these new car regulations. ERS gain is everything. It actually pays off to be slower. You have to go slower to go faster. I know it sounds really weird, but without good ERS battery management, you can't hope to go fast at all. We will ride on board with Smirky as he starts his potentially final lap as we're yellow into the turn 3 hairpin. Two drivers are right on top of each other. That's a good turn 1 from Smirky down in P16 nearing the bottom. Hasn't set a soft sector time yet. Purple to the first sector over our current pole sitter, but not the greatest T3 turn in. Okay on traction as he gets out of the corner. Good times from him there. And he goes into turn 4. That's a good turn in, able to utilize the traction zone very efficiently, and he's heading into the last parts of sector 2 now. We'll have to see if he can improve on his times, and he's half a second up currently on our current pole sitter in the Red Bull with a 5-0. At this point, he's sitting in the 4.5s, maybe even a 4.4 if he can do it well. Great time from him there. He's able to push it effectively around the corners, and he is able to go to P1 with a 1:04.5. By far the fastest time we've seen in the session so far, and that will more than likely be the end of his session. We'll see if Hackett has a chance to respond. Again, he has to gain almost half a second on his lap if he wants to regain pole. Going slow in here, not the greatest turn in as we saw from Smirky, but he's still able to compete going into the final couple corners in the second sector. Will he have enough in him? He's currently 1.5 tenths down. Unless he gets a miracle third sector, he's not going ahead. Ted Head goes to P2 with a 4.6, almost a 4.7 there. Zinni, he's yellow to the first, green to the second. We'll see if he'll be next across the line. He does not improve on his lap. Tsutsama, who did hold pole for a while. Carroll up to P3, able to rectify his situation, but not nearly as good as when he was on the intermediates. Smirky has decided to retire from the session. Al Ayert goes in the Mercedes to P4 prematurely, falls down to P6 as Adam and Wesker pip him for 4th and 5th place. Tsutsama down into 9th, not looking good after his P2 and provisionally pole position. He's purple to the first, green to the second. Will he have enough in him? It won't be enough for pole, but it will be enough for P3, pushing Carroll down to 4th. Not what you want to see from him, as he just had one of his best laps. TJ up into P4 just behind his teammate, a Ferrari second row lockout. And Hackett, after having pole, is now down in P11. There is your final qualifying results. Smirky in P1, Ted Head P2, Tsutsama P3, TJ P4 with a Ferrari lockout in the second row. Carroll in P5, Wesker P6, Berger in P7, Lucas and Adam in P8 and P9 respectively, and Ayert Big Double rounds out your top 10. Surprisingly, I thought it would be a little bit slower in this race, but the entire top 10 was in the 104s. Great job from them. If I was in the lobby, I mean, I did a few laps before the lobby, but if I was in, I'd be P2 on the road. Not a bad time from anybody there. I think every single person there is very impressed with what they had. I think they'd be very happy with what they have, and now it's down to race strategy. Now it is a 36 lap race, and Austria is historically a very, what's the word? It's not very prone to tire wear. On the 2018 and 2019 games, you could go soft to medium, even on your worn softs from qualifying, and still quite easily do the whole race on both sets. In 2018, you could go what is essentially the ultra soft to the super soft, as they still use in F2, but tire wear really isn't a big factor around here. And in a 50% race, I know that this year it might actually be a two-stop with the higher tire wears being ran, but I'm not too sure if that is exactly what we're going to be looking for. 19 drivers in this race. Most of them hoping for a P10. It is normal point scoring rules, so you don't score points outside of the top 10. And with the field this close, I mean, if we exclude P19, who is almost half a second off the rest of the grid, P1 down to P18 is separated by, I think what I saw was 1.4 seconds. So 18 drivers, 1.4 seconds. And I'm sure some of those back drivers, if they had a better lap, they probably could have gotten a little closer. But definitely there is almost little to no gap in between this field. And I sincerely hope that we can actually go racing well. Not a whole lot of safety cars. This usually isn't a very safety car prone circuit. But it can happen. It can happen. So yeah, I believe, one second, I think I need to send an invite to someone. Apologies, my dear friends. Still waiting. Oh. And 4 lights, 5 lights. And away we go. And it looks like a driver pulled immediately off to his right. And Ted Head goes into P1, Smirky down from P1, Ted Head from P2 into P1, TJ up from P4 into P3, Zuxama with a horrendous start. Not the greatest from what you would want to see after a P3 qualifying position all the way down to P19. Maybe something to potentially look out for here as we go down the field. It is looking rather interesting. Up and down the field, not too much has happened. A lot of the drivers starting on the mediums, majority in fact, and only a couple on the hards. The highest up soft runner is only P8. He's managed to stay position, which is very surprising at this point, considering the hards, they may not be completely up to temperature. But considering that this will be a lot of DRS, well, what is the equivalent of DRS, driving in and around this circuit, I would be very surprised if majority of these drivers are able to even pull a gap if there is no fighting in and amongst the field. Again, not much has changed in the top 10. Zuxama has fallen down almost 18 positions though. Horrible start for him. We'll have to see if he can fight back. And it looks like further up the field there is some fighting. And it looks like we're going to be heading into turn 4. And TJ is going to not be able to overtake. He's trying to get there. Smirky is trying to really get by. That non-dirty air is really helping him stay in front, but he's only 8 tenths ahead. He's trying to pull a second gap so the drivers behind don't get extra straight line boost on the 3 straights that we have here on this track. Huge gap is falling in from P16 to P17, almost a second pulled already, though with these gaps in between I'm sure that it will be caught up pretty quickly. And a gap between last place and 20th is starting to form. A couple of gaps you can see here and there, not a whole lot though, still within the second for a good majority of these drivers. But there's not too much you can really see here. A lot of these drivers, as Ted Head decides to go pretty wide into this third turn. And there's not really much in between a majority of these drivers right now as we go farther back. And it looks like the Red Bull of Hack is getting overtaken by his teammates. Again, they're probably talking about it here. Hack is on the hards, one of the top runners on the hards, in fact, but he's just going to be way too slow at the moment. And an interesting move from the Mercedes is he's going to go for it in what is turn 7, one of the worst places, I would say, for a move. And they're side by side into turn 8, and they're going to go completely fine. Hack runs wide, potentially a warning there, but he's able to stay just ahead, and he's going to be able to get onto the back of his teammate, who's also 4 spots up, but the Mercedes is just going to plow on by and go into what is that, 10? Pretty easily here, but he's not going to have any boost here, and I don't believe he's going to try to fight this. Hack might try to go for the move. He does not have the most amount of ERS, but they are able to go side by side. Hack with the worst traction on the worst tires. And the Mercedes is going to stay ahead, but for how long, who knows. Again, Trosh is trying to get ahead, but he just can't do that. He is staying adamantly behind, and he has to lift off there, not wanting to go too wide in turn 6, and decides to just play his part. But now with this, P10 and the rest of the field are now almost 2 seconds away from the next closest car. It's going to be ridiculously hard to catch that back up without some shenanigans up front, or a safety car, or even a VSC. But the top 9, they are separated only by a few tenths in between them. Not much really in between all of these drivers, as they're basically just trying to get as far ahead as they humanly can. Again, just trying to pull a gap. You can see that that gap between P9 and P10 is widening. It was 1.8 seconds in the second sector last lap, and now it's 2.5 seconds. It's such a big gap, and they're still deciding to fight. This is not very smart from Trosh and Ernala. TJ has retired, and that is going to be a VSC running in P3, and he is now out of the race. That is a horrible start for both of the Ferraris as they qualified P3 and P4, and now one of them is out and one of them is P18. This is a horrendous start. Smirky is down 6 places too. I wonder what happened here. He's missing most of his wing. I wonder what happened. Good couple of people are going into the pits here. We'll have to see how they do. A couple of people into the pits. We'll have to see how long they stop. Ted head out in a relatively quick time. And Darla as well, but big double as well. Haddock also out relatively quickly. No, he has to stop for a wing change. Smirky with an 8.3. Schmidt with a 1.8 is ridiculous. That is one of the fastest I've ever seen in any online lobby. But now this really shakes up the field. I believe that these hard compound tires, even at this early on in the race, could go to the end. Could and will are two very different things, but they definitely could go to the end. 30 laps, I would not be surprised. And as you can see, a big majority shifted from the mediums to the hards, and you have to wonder how big of a shakeup this is going to have on the lobby itself. There's huge gaps starting to form. A couple of trains here and there. Zugzama's back up to P7 after a bad start, but he's not really doing that great on the mediums, on the worst tire at the moment. This is a full-blown safety car now. A full-blown safety car. And a couple of people pull back into the pits. As Hazza in P6, he's going to fall down quite a bit of places here, probably all the way down to the back. He gets off his mediums, and he will likely go onto the hards or something else. As we head into the start of the safety car, as you can see, lots of big placement changes up and down the field. And with the safety car, of course, we don't really know who's really in the lead. But at the moment, I would hazard a guess and say Ted Head is pretty much on track. He's not on track P1, but he's cumulative P1. He's on the freshest hard tires in the field. He's in P7 behind all the drivers who still have yet to box. He's basically P1 just without the actual position itself. And I think almost all, if not all, drivers behind him are also on fresh rubber. So everybody from P6 all the way up to P1 have not boxed. They are on old tires. They are not doing too good. As you can see, majority of these drivers, they don't have the greatest tire wear. Up in the high to mid-teens, potentially even the 20% for the medium runners. Zama is on some of the worst by far. His rears are getting lit up on 25%, while his fronts are barely getting used, while the drivers in front of him have way less tire wear. I mean, Trosh also on the mediums, 5% less front tire wear, a little bit more front tire wear, so more even. Even Adam, 4% less. And Wesker also pretty much less. So a little interesting. Maybe Zook had a really bad start. That's what I'm thinking happened. And he just didn't have the greatest. He also has some front wing damage. If you can see on the left hand side there, 13%. He doesn't have the greatest grip strength. I'm thinking that he definitely had an altercation at the start there. Maybe he went a little too fast off the starts and bumped into the back of somebody else, or he went so slow that somebody else bumped into the back of him. But yeah, these guys are having some really hard times keeping those temperatures, those internal temperatures in and around 60 to 70. It's just not going to cut it, especially on these hards. At 60 here for Carroll, he's just not able to get these tires up to temp, and you can see it in the weaving that he's doing. Already 1 to 2% worse tires than the guy ahead of him, who is basically at the moment fighting for the win. Alpha behind on fresh hards as well, 0%. His tires are ice cold though, in the high 50s or 60s. And Hazard behind as well, just not getting what they need to do, and it is time to go back racing. Up and down the field, there looks to be a huge displacement. Trosh not having the greatest of restarts, but he'll have to make up for it with his battery to hopefully get back in. Well, I think the top three are hoping to break away as quickly as they humanly can. They need to get their tires back into that operating range. As you can see, it's still ice cold. They really need these tires to warm up if they're hoping to have a chance of breaking away. And I think maybe a lap or two and they'll be more than fine and into the warm zone. And at this point, majority of the medium runners and even some of the harder runners, their tires are now fine. They just really need those fronts to get some more temps in them, especially Lucas here. You can see his front right, 71 degrees. It's been a minute. The rest of his tires are all well within their operating window, but he's lacking grip right now. And Copperblad has gotten past Trosh, but he's 1.5 seconds behind. He is on some of the older tires. Trosh already almost at 30%. His tires are basically dead. Ted Head right behind him. It looks like he might go for the move here. Way fresher, but harder compound tires. He has the ERS advantage now. He's going to go for it, and Trosh doesn't even fight it. And behind you can see Carroll as well going for the move on Zama, easily able to get past on the fresher rubber. And no wing damage, if you remember. But it looks like Carroll is going to stay behind a second sector Smirky all the way down. It looks like he might have spun there. A little interesting, but now he's all the way back with major front wing damage in the front right and a little in the front left. His race is not doing very well. Wow, okay, that is a visual glitch. His whole front nose cone's gone. I don't know how he's turning. But he'll probably dive it into the pits here and basically be hoping for some sort of luck as we come back in and out. Haddock also having some front right wing damage. He's going to be limping around the track until he gets in. Mr. Schmidt also back in. Smirky in. A lot of front wing damage going on so far. Not a whole lot. And you can see their pit times up in the top right, but just not a whole lot to go off of here. The battle for the top 10 rages on. A lot of these drivers, they're on fresher tires than the cars ahead of them, so it'll just be how quickly they can get past them, as Zugzam has already fallen 4 positions since the restart. Not the greatest time for him, especially after that very poor start personally. He still has to limp around with that damage, but his rear tires are getting absolutely lit up because of this damage. Behind him, drivers obviously on quicker tires, fresher tires, are just going to zoom by, and he's going to be falling down major places. I wouldn't be surprised if he pulls in the pits within the next few laps, maybe even this coming lap. There aren't very many drivers now ahead. Trosh also now falling behind. His pace not doing amazing at the moment. On the older tires, no damage to speak of, but he's trying to make passes while he can. He has maybe another 6, maybe 5 or 6 laps left on these tires, depending on how far he wants to go and how well he wants those hards to last. And the fight for P1 is starting to unfold. All of the top 3 drivers still on their really old tires. Both the drivers in P1 and P2 still on old mediums, with the driver in P3 probably on the best tires in the top 3. On hards, not huge differences between the tire wear, as you can see, basically about high 30s to low 30s. But this gap will continue to expand, and once these medium drivers hit about the 45 to 50% cliff, there will be a huge difference between the field. And of course, Ted Head really trying to get ahead. He's on almost half the total tire wear percentages. He'll be able to push ridiculously quickly. But it looks like he's just taking his time here. He doesn't really need to go for a move here. And Carroll, the driver who is basically fighting for the win at the moment, he's quite a bit behind. He's having to push as hard as he can to get back into the fight. Ted Head sizing up a move now on Adam, his teammate. He's able to get by, maybe some team orders there. He's able to get by relatively quickly. No time lost between either driver. And now Ted Head into the top 3. It looks like he'll be battling to try to get P2 as quickly as he can. He can see the driver ahead is out of ERS, while he himself, he doesn't have the most amount of ERS, but he's able to do it. And he'll be able to really win ahead, go ahead, and hopefully pass him. He really needs to get ahead of Carroll, who's in P5, 2 places behind him, as he is basically his main rival for this race. They're fighting each other. A spin in Sector 2. Will that cause a safety car? It doesn't look like it will at the moment. Schmidt on the softs, 40 seconds back. It's not having the greatest of races, and it looks like Ted Head is looking for the move into T3. Way better traction on the way better tires. And he's just going to go by. They're going to let off, and he's just going to go by. Lucas deciding to stay in P3. And now Ted Head sizing up the move for P1. He's on 5-lap fresher but harder tires, so at the moment Wesker, he's going to be a little bit faster, potentially on 45%. Schmidt now into the pits, and he's just going to retire from the session. At least he's not doing it on track. Unfortunate for him, but he could have stayed out. Maybe there was a safety car waiting for him. But Wesker's tires are about to fall off a cliff. You can just see how knackered his tires are. 102 degrees internal temperature. His are on fire in the rears. Almost half of the tire wear as the driver in front, and that is just the profound difference between the hards and the mediums here. The mediums are able to do a good majority of the race, but the hards really are going to get you there. Looks like he's going for the move here. He wants to get a little bit of a gap behind so he can let off as much. Again, the more you let off in this race, the more ERS you gain, and the more ERS you gain, the faster you can go overall. It's a really weird concept, but it works for some reason. Why it works, I have no clue. Lucas behind those, still on those older hards. He's nearly at the 50% clip himself, while the driver behind him, Adam, he's basically there. He might pull into the pits either this lap, next lap, or the lap after. Now it looks like he's not going to. None of the medium runners that have stayed out so far have, and it looks like there's a huge gap starting to form. Ted Head moves into P1. Trosh moves into the pits. Zugzamo follows him in, and it looks like they'll be going on to the hards for the rest of the race to finish out their race. They're really hoping at this point for no safety cars, no VSCs, no safety cars, no red flags, no nothing. They don't want anything. And Ted Head now, he's just gonna try and run away with this thing, as the driver behind, he's on older tires. Carroll can't seem to get by, and at the moment, if he doesn't pass these three drivers in front of him within the next few laps, I don't know if he'll really be able to do much of what he needs to do in this race. He's on the hards, same age as Ted Head, but his tires are absolutely cooked. Adams is over 50%, Lucas is getting there, Wesker's is over 50%, but Ted, he just has profound tire control and pace control. He's over 10% faster, 10% better on his tires than people on equivalent tires. It is a profound difference, I'm sure, in the pace and driving style, and Carroll is starting to get caught up behind these drivers. He just can't seem to pass. Behind him, pretty much the same bout. I mean, they're just not as good on their tires as they need to be. And there's a spin from Adam. Unfortunately, he was in P3. He's going to be all the way at the back now, pretty much in the back of the point scoring positions and not on great tires. It's going to be a tough road for him. Sukarek moves into P6. Both the McLarens having a good race weekend so far. Penalty for both Trosh and Schmidt, but Schmidt is out. Trosh, I'm assuming that is entering the pits a little too early. He might have to serve that if he pits again, but at the moment there is no reason for him to do so. Again, I think Ted Head probably could get to the end of the race on his tires, but I'm not too sure if majority of the other drivers could. Ted is on 20% on his tires after I think 12 laps. He still has 18 left to go, but he'd be pushing it, of course, but there's really no other driver contesting him. He's 2.5 seconds ahead of anybody else in the field. Carroll moves up to P3, his direct rival, on the same set of tires, but I mean 46 and 44% in the front, and Ted is on 33 and 24. It is a profound, ridiculous difference even between both drivers and their tire wear. Arnaldo moves up into P4, putting Lucas down to P5, and he even gets up into P3. Taking advantage of Carroll maybe lifting and coasting, trying to get his ERS back, and he's had the best drive so far today on some of the best tires in one of the best places in the podium. Wesker really trying to battle here. He's going to be moving over. He is going to be going into the box there. And now it is going to be basically a fight for P1, for P2 and everybody else. As Ted is miles ahead. He's so far ahead, he's already halfway up the straight. At the moment, he's light years ahead on better tires. He is my favorite to win the race at the moment, but he also qualified in the top 2 positions. Looks like there is a battle forming out here for the for the top 6 positions, as almost all of these drivers are pretty much on the same level of tire wear. Sukarek, I think, is on the best level of tire, and you think maybe soon Carroll will decide, hey, my teammate, if he's faster than me and he's on better tires, let's just let him by. But at the moment, there is no cause to do so. Urnala almost spins out there, I think. And it looks like his teammate really does want to get by, but Carroll is not letting it be. Slowing it up here. I think they might both try and pass Urnala here. They do have the DRS to do so, and it looks like they might try and do it. Urnala, he's still having a good chance through here, but it doesn't look like they're going to try and pass just yet. And it looks like they are going to swap positions. Sukarek on the faster tires, in the faster car. They're going to give him a go, see if he can get by. If he can get by, give him the chance to maybe even lead here. Lucas on the oldest tires out of all this, and he spins there, unfortunately braking a little too late. He cannot reset the track, and he will have not the greatest time. A little bit of front wing damage. I don't think it'll slow him down too much, but it won't be great. Already 60% on his rears, and those things are scorching hot. Not a great showing from him so far. He'll have to pit down, but who knows, he might be able to get a couple of laps back up. He's going to dive it into the pits. Not sure if he'll do a wing change or not, but there are pretty massive gaps forming. There is a fight for P10 though. Front right wing, front left wing. Are these? They don't all have wing damage. I feel like Hazza might be able to just get by here pretty soon. Moving in the braking zone, that's a big no-no from the Red Bull ahead. Hackett, he needs to not do that. Lucas deciding not to repair his front wing, and that is going to be a big double A passing back into the points. He started there. Hopefully he'll be able to stay there on some of the freshest tires in the field, but who knows if he'll be able to keep that. And he's going to go almost immediately back onto the attack. Goes from P11 to P9 in 2 corners. Great job from him, and he will be trying to get onto the move for P8. And at the moment, that looks like about the best he can do, as the drivers ahead are having huge, momentous gaps between each other, as there isn't much to fight for. Cooper Bard, he's well off the fight of both the McLarens, as Carroll dives it into the pits on the 60% old hards. He will likely be going on to another set of hards if he can, but I don't believe he will. He will be going on to, I believe, that is another set of mediums. Unfortunately, you can't, I believe, get 2 sets of hard compound tires, and Sukarek, he unfortunately leaves the session in P3. That is really a heartbreaker for him. Naut is going to be trying to move it around. He's still quite a bit behind, but he's kind of in his own field. Same with Zinni. Both P5 and P6, and some of the best times here. It looks like one of the lower drivers has decided to pull out. Sukarek is going to pit here under AI, unfortunate for him. Urnala is basically getting a free runaway here. Ted Head, he's keeping it cool. Still by far on the best tires out of all the drivers who started with him. And it is just, there's huge losses at the back here. Smirky, who started in P1, he's just so far back. He needs a safety car at this point. Lord. I can't see. Brother's not showing online. Apologies, everyone. Okay. I'm trying to get this done as quick as I can, but I don't see him. Unless I already did it. It looks like Smirky has done something? I have no idea what's going on here. He's just pulling off. I think he's just retired out of the race, and that he has. Cooper Bard has now gone into P1. Ted Head now on fresh mediums in P6, trying to cover up the drivers from behind. As you can see, Carroll on older, harder compound tires. He's already at 10%, and on worse tires. He will not be catching up to Ted Head, but he'll be hoping at the end of the race that he may just have a chance to come back and score a few points here and there. I'm gonna try this one last time, see if it happens. If I can't see him, then I can invite him. Alright, unfortunate. Yeah. Anyway, so your new top three is both the Mercedes on the podium positions, but on way older tires. They'll more than likely pit soon. Wesker also on the freshest tires, I think, in the top three by a long mile, but he will have a very hard time being able to keep that position, as Ted Head is only half a second behind him on fresher tires, on softer tires. With only 10 laps up to go, his tires will be more than fresh enough to be able to complete the race and be faster for the majority of the race. Wesker basically has to beat him on pure pace here at the moment. Trosh, he's on way older tires. He's been able to keep this driver behind for the longest amount of time. He's using all the battery he can. There's not much left between them, and it looks like the Audi of Treadhead is trying to get by. He's not able to do it in turn one, so he'll have to wait at least one more corner. But it looks like he's going to use almost all of his battery here. He's going to try to get past if he can, but he's going to wait yet another straight. Trosh has no ERS to speak of. He's about half there, if you can see, on the steering wheel. He's going to use it all before halfway down the straight. And Ted Head, he's basically just going to sail on by. He's really late into the corner, but he has so much fresher tires that he's literally just going to out-traction him all day, every day. And now Wesker, who has the best fight for P1 outside of Ted Head, he's now basically got to fight for it. He's got to fight hard for it too. Trosh, he's going to have to come into the pits soon. Carroll's going to try and beat him as quickly as he can. He wants to get onto the back of Ted Head and that top three group, because if he doesn't, he'll fall prey to not as good of a point scoring position as he thought. P4 there, great job overtaking. Not too much there, a little bit of a lag spike from myself, but he's not too far back, not a whole lot of ERS to spend, and there it definitely is a huge gap forming. Ornella on some of the fresher tires in P6, he'll be coming up towards Trosh. Currently, what is P4, if we go off of tire wear, and people who still need to box with 9 laps left to go. Still a safety car or VSC could throw a wrench in any of these top runners' plans. As there really is quite a bit of a battle here forming for at least P7, as there are 4 drivers, make that 3, that are fighting for it, and a couple of drivers who are a bit farther back, who maybe have the pace but don't really have the position at the moment. Ornola and Adam currently pretty much in no man's land. They have a huge gap in front, and at least Ornola has a big gap behind. Trosh is trying to stay onto the front group as much as he can before he boxes. I believe he'll pretty much have to if he wants to complete the race, though With 8 laps left to go, anything is possible, and if he's able to keep the gap behind, he may even try to stay ahead. There's a blue flag ahead as one of the drivers is going to have to move out of the way. Huge gaps at the back, so we are not going to worry about that. Big Double A still in P1, but his tires are completely gone. His front left, if he tries to continue to the end of the race, will basically pop. He's already at 64%. He's got 8 laps to go. I would say it's probably best just to come into the box at the moment and finish the race out in whatever you are at. Ted Head, he's still trying to fight for that. He's going to just back off here, going to recharge his battery, slow down as much as he can, and he's just going to focus on that exit. And he can use as much of this battery as he wants, basically as he pleases. His tire wear is ridiculously good. Carroll, who is on harder tires, has taken more tire wear on a harder compound than Ted Head has, which just shows his profound use of being able to keep the tires alive as well as he's been able to. And he's just going to wait again. He doesn't have to go for the move just yet, but if I were him, I'd start thinking about it. Double A is on 67%. Ted Head does go ahead into this corner. Wesker, it's now up to him, Carroll, and Ted Head to fight for who I think is going to be the winner. Wesker pretty much on, I would say, the second best tires. Surprisingly, Carroll was really bad on his tires, so even though he boxed a few laps later, he still has worse tires than both Wesker and Ted Head, and Ted Head is going to move into your P1 position, but now will he be able to stay ahead? He has the RS to do so, but will he have the front wing to do so? His is, it's not nearly as open. But who knows? 6 laps left to go. Anything could happen. Even a safety car at this moment. In the midfield battle, there really isn't much going on. Big Double and Trosh are way far behind their teammates. They're not doing a very good job, but currently P4 and P5 way higher than when they started, but their tires are starting to die out. Arnala is now getting onto the back of Trosh, but he also has a penalty. Will he be able to overtake and stay ahead, as the drivers behind him are only a second, maybe 2. So if that's a 5 second for entering the pits too quickly, well, he's just not going to keep that position. But currently, some huge winners right there. 10 places for Trosh, 10 for Koper, 8 for Arnala. They're doing a fantastic job of getting positions basically out of nowhere. A couple of the top drivers, TJ and Smirky, who qualified P4 and P1, they're both out of the race. That's a very surprising. It basically gives every driver at least 1 or 2 positions for free. And Arnala is starting to close up very quickly onto the back of them. Only about a second difference between him and Koper, as well as Adam. And it looks like there was a yellow flag for maybe a second, but it cleared up quite quickly. And there's starting to be a battle for the last of the points positions as well, as all the way up to P5. 5 laps left to go, and there is now a huge gap forming at the start of the field. Trosh way back, and now it's basically a fight for who's going to be P2, as Wesker is desperately holding on. Treadhead in the faster, softer tires with less tire wear. He's basically just coasting all the way through, just going as fast as he really wants. He's getting all the speed down the straights and being slow in the corners because he doesn't need to be fast in the corners. Doing that makes his tires better. The drivers behind him, Ted has basically perfected this new game. You're supposed to be slow to gain battery. You then use all your battery down the straight to gain all the time back you lose in the corners. All the time you lose in the corners is helped by not having as much tire wear at the end of the day. It is really a double-pronged sword. You basically get to be as fast, but you don't lose tire wear. It's really interesting. As you can see, Carroll, who pitted 2 laps before Ted Head and on harder compound tires, is on nearly double the tire wear. of the car ahead of him. That just doesn't happen. Like, even if there was a 1 compound difference, it's a ridiculous feat that you boxed 2 laps earlier and you have 20% more wear on your tires. That doesn't happen. Ted Head is just taking almost nothing out of his tires because he doesn't need to be fast in the corners. He just wants to be fast down the straights, and by doing so, he's keeping the same pace as the cars behind, but keeping his tires alive. He's been on these tires for almost 10 laps now, and he's fine. He's on 20%. Big double A, I mean, if he gets these tires to the end, 4 laps left to go, you know, bravo fucking O. You know, clap it up. 80% on his tires. I'd be surprised if it doesn't pop. I'd honestly be surprised if he finishes. Oh, wow. If he finishes the race, and there is now a battle for P5. Arnala, Koperbard, and Trosh, are now battling for P5. A bit of a lunge there, but he's able to keep the position. Trosh staying ahead, even on those way older hards. Arnala and Koperbard on softer, better mediums, and Koperbard by far on the better mediums, trying to go for a move into T7. He's not able to do it and pull it off, but he has more than enough ERS to go ahead and stay ahead, going into T8 and T9. A little bit of a touch there, but nothing too major. I don't think any damage was done there, and it doesn't look like the game rendered it either. Trying to stay ahead in P5. A little bit of a touch there, and Koperbard, he's going to have some major front left wing damage. That's not what you want to see at this point in the race. 3 laps left to go. I mean, he's on such better tires that it kind of negates the difference. But he was so much faster, and now he's going to be almost the exact same pace, if not a little slower. He still has that mechanical grip, but now the aerodynamical grip it's lacking. And now 3 wide into turn 4. He's going to be touched from basically everywhere. Adam's also trying to get into the mix, but he's on way old hards. But with the penalties that both Trosh and Arnala have, it's going to be interesting to see where they finish, because they still have to either serve it or they don't serve it, and they get it at the end of the race added onto their time, in which Adam will go ahead by 2 positions. It is going to be a hard fought fight. A little bit of a wing damage there as well. Not too sure who that was for. And that's going to be Adam, I think, with a little bit of wing damage, 26%. He is basically out of the running now for anything higher than P5. But Koperbard also now has a penalty. So if he's able to stay in this fight, he can go all the way from P8 to P5. And GRL Lucas behind, he can also go from P9 all the way up to P6. Adam is going to try and get the overtake. He's going to be able to get it done on Adam, but because they both have horrendously bad traction on those old tires, and Adam with now even more front left wing damage, it's just not going to cut it. He's now dealing with huge understeer. 2 laps left to go, make that a lap and a half, as Ted is now rounding into the 3rd sector of his penultimate lap. And there seems to be a battle going on here, maybe even for P2, as there are only a few positions down. Big double A on 86%. I think this is the, if he can finish at the race on these tires, what a position that would be. Ted Head, he's just basically going to cruise on home here, 3 seconds ahead. He doesn't even need to fight for it, but Wesker and Carroll both need to fight for it, as they're trying to go down into the final positions here for the podium. P3 or P2. Carroll locks up heading into T3. He's over a half second behind, and I would say this is pretty much wraps. He doesn't have the battery that he needs. I mean, he's out of battery. Wesker still has some left in the tank. He's on older tires, or actually, no, sorry, he's on way better tires now. So I think that fight is done. Double A still on those tires. I don't know how they haven't popped yet on the front left. Arnala in P5, he's still fighting for it, ahead of Koperbard, ahead of Trosh, ahead of Adam. Adam is the only driver, or the highest level driver, without a penalty, but behind Lucas, he's trying to get whatever he can going. It is the final lap. He's going to go all out here, basically the same ERS levels. And Ted Head is going to win. Wesker P2, Carroll P3. Oh, Ayer is going to be P4, Ernala P5, Coperbard P6, Adam is going to move up to P5, Lucas P6, Zenny P7, Ernala is going to finish in P8, Coperbard in P9. And Josh rounds out your points scoring positions. Big double A. Honestly, he's my driver of the day. 90% on that front left. I honestly, lap 22, I saw that. I ain't know if he's going to be able to finish that. I'll be completely dead honest. I didn't think he would be able to actually fully complete it. There's just no way that he was going to be able to complete the race, and he did, miraculously. But your winner here today is Ted. Congratulations. Salutations. Winner by a mile. Honestly, by far the fastest driver. And it's not even close, in my humble opinion. He was the best on his tires. He was the fastest in the race. Never in doubt. Honestly, a spectacular performance from him. And as we round out the day, your race winner Ted, fastest lap, goes to Smirky surprisingly, even though he didn't even finish half the race. Driver of the day, they think it's Hazza. I'm not with that. Most everything's big double A. Let's go, baby. I mean, I'm so surprised he finished the race. I mean, he finished 12 positions higher than he needed to be, and Wesker was the cleanest driver. I mean, basically stayed in the top scoring positions pretty much the whole race. Anyway, yeah, it was a great race. Had fun. But I will catch you all for the next race.